afraid.
Why don't you play us something, baby? Why don't you play us some? Why don't you play us something, baby?
Start? I don't feel so good. It's fucking molten!
All right, party people, what's up? Welcome to the Movie Epidemic podcast. I'm your host, Buck Hollywood LeDuc. I'm the most Hollywood person around, even more than the people that live in LA, baby. Well, welcome to the film festival coverage. This is the first episode that we've recorded. I've been to about 15 films so far, and I realized, shit, I haven't recorded even a single thing. So I've got a cross-section of movies here today for you. These ones I would consider some of the festival darlings of the indie stuff. And we're going to cover these today. I've got an episode coming out on docs that I've seen at the festival. I've got an episode of horror that I've seen coming up, the episode of foreign Oscar noms that I've seen at the festival. I've seen a lot of those. So I've got about 4 or 5 episodes coming out for you. I'm going to try and cover everything I saw at some point, but I don't know my time frame on frame because I'm recording this right now as I'm about to leave the door to go see another movie. So hopefully I can cover more of this festival that I was graciously enough to be able to cover as press, and it's been great so far. It's been a fun time. I'm very tired, but that's just the way it is at festival season. You watch like 30 movies and then you just don't watch any movies for a long time, except for if you're me, where I have to watch like 5 movies a week for this job. Then you're just going to have to keep going. Somehow I will have to find the strength to watch another movie. So today we're going to be talking about 4 films that I hand-selected. Driveways, which was the first movie I saw at the festival last Thursday. We will also be talking about a couple Canadian movies, White Lie and James vs. His Future Self, which I saw last night. And one of the best of the fest, as far as I'm concerned, the new Ken Loach, Sorry We Missed You. I'm a big fan of Ken Loach, so I was very excited to get to see his new movie at the film festival, so we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's start off with Driveways. This was the first movie I saw. Number 1 pick. Well, it was this or something that I didn't want to see, so I kind of stumbled upon this, and I'm very glad I did, because this movie is extremely good. Directed by Andrew N., and he presents his new film Driveways that premiered earlier this year in Berlin. This bad boy is written by Hannah Boss and Paul 13. They're a couple New York playwrights, but this is their first actual screenplay that they've written, and it does feel like a movie and not a play. I do find that quite often when you have a playwright convert into a screenwriter, they often kind of make just like a play, like a limited locations kind of dialogue heavy film. And this isn't really that. There's a lot of dialogue in it, but the thing about this movie is it says so much more in the subtext, and it is impeccably written. That is for sure. We're going to be talking about impeccably written things a lot today, because that's what the film festival brings generally. So this is a movie that Andrew N. There was a Q&A, and it was one of the better Q&As I've seen in quite some time, because even if the question wasn't that good, he had some sort of answer and was able to lead it into something even more interesting about his creation of this film. And originally, it was just he was pitched as director. It's just like when you watch a lot of these indie movies, you can kind of tell that the director is often the writer, and these films are real personal. But Andrew N. managed to make this script that wasn't his own, like very personally. And he mentioned in the Q&A that it wasn't originally written with Asian actors, and when he pitched it, it made the script work in ways they didn't expect. And I think because of that, it's constructed in a very personal and intimate manner, and it really makes the emotions hit even harder. Because this film It's really just a compassionate film in a time where that's kind of what we're craving here. So it stars Hong Chow as Kathy, the mother. You may have known her from Downsizing, that really shitty Alexander Payne movie, that really shitty half-star film with Matt Damon. I think was Matt Damon in that? Yeah. Boy, it's basically just evaporated from my brain. It's so shitty. But Ung Chao brings a very energetic performance. It's completely different from like the borderline racist performance of Downsizing. It also stars the great Brian Donaghy as the neighbor Dell. He's a big man, and and he plays a retired Korean War vet, and you're like, oh, Korean War vet, and some Koreans are moving in. But it's not that movie. It's not. Sorry, Clint. This is not Gran Torino. This is almost the opposite of Gran Torino, and it's really refreshing. Like, I don't know. Like, it's not one of those movies where it's this Korean War vet starts out racist and he softens up after meeting a small Asian boy. It's not that movie. In fact, it's almost the exact opposite of that, where the mother Kathy is kind of like she doesn't want him to talk to her son. And the son is played by Lucas J. I guess he's a newcomer because he's a child, and he's very good. And you have to have someone very good for this kind of movie, where it's a movie that doesn't explicitly say anything at all. Really, it doesn't explicitly say why, like things about them that you just have to gain from the subtext. You have to read between the lines for a lot of it. And I really like that kind of filmmaking, especially in these very personal, organic feeling movies. So the film begins with Kathy and her son emptying the house of her late sister. And they find out that she was a hoarder. So they have to stay in this small town America longer than they expected. They're there on summer break. So her son Cody just kind of has to walk around while she's cleaning the house, and he forges some unlikely friendships. The biggest one is with Donahue. Donahue. I don't know how to say his name, but he's a great actor, and he's really spectacular in this. And the whole cast is really spectacular. There's a few other people that play some of the older friends, the actors. I forget what that one guy's name is. Jerry Adler. Jerry Adler. And he is like spectacular as one of the friends that's suffering from dementia. And apparently the script is like slightly based on both of their experiences, the writers, as one of them, their mother cleaned out hoarders' houses, and the other one, his father was a Korean vet. So it's a very personal movie, and it does really feel that. While it still managed to be funny and charming, and it's just like it's straight up one of the most pleasant movies you'll see in a while, because there's not really an antagonist, except for trying to it's all inner turmoil, right? Because you have Cody, the son, who has trouble making friends, and then like has things to reveal. Like it's possible he might be on the spectrum a little bit, but they never explicitly say it. There's just things like when they shoot off fireworks, like he gets really scared from it. He has trouble connecting to people, things like that. And there's a lot of that like spliced throughout this movie. Like how they learn about the sister, and from context of talking to people. So you learn at the same time as they do, but they never give you anything else. Like the mother is divorced, but they never really talk about it. There's one scene where she talks to him on the phone for 5 seconds, and it doesn't go very well, and you just have to take what you can from that. And the way the film is constructed, like you take a lot from their actions rather than what they're saying, and I do think that's powerful when it comes to an indie movie like this that doesn't have much of a budget, but has a lot to say. And I think all around it's a very organic movie that lets you make assumptions about the characters. Maybe you're right, maybe you're not, maybe it doesn't matter. So I think this is like a really beautiful and poignant movie. And it's different than what I expected. I went in expecting that I'm gonna be like, oh no, we got another fucking Gran Torino movie here where we're just gonna have the Korean War vet who softens up after a while, but it's not that, and that's what I really liked about it. So that's Driveways. I'm gonna give that one 4 out of 5. Buck says 4 out of 5. Next one, White Lie. This is another one that I really like the script. I thought it was so well done because of the content. And White Lie, this is a Canadian movie, kind of a thriller, kind of just like an emotional drama. But it's just like it's a hard watch specifically because it's so impeccably written. And this is written and directed by Johan Lewis and Calvin Thomas. Calvin Thomas was at the Q&A, as well as the star Casey Roll. This movie is about a girl who is pretending to have cancer and having like a Kickstarter, or not a Kickstarter, but like a GoFundMe, because this is like something that really happens apparently. This film obviously goes into a bit more ridiculous territory because I don't actually think you could pull it off a lot of the time. The things that happen in this, I don't think you could pull them off, but it's such a wonderful web of lies. Like, the thing about this movie is Casey Roll, who plays the main character Katie, is so, it's like such a nuanced performance with the script, because well, Katie's obviously a terrible person. Like, every single time you think that maybe she's gonna be a good person again, she goes the opposite direction. She just can't stop lying. And the lies are like the lies just like snowball, and it's so hard to watch at times. But like the way that it's written, deep down, I think maybe it hits the same adrenaline that you get when you tell a great lie. Like, sometimes you tell a great lie and you get that adrenaline rush. And you're like, oh, fuck yeah. And there's a little bit of that in this movie. There's like a little bit of me wanted her to get away with it. But obviously, like, she's fucking terrible. She's terrible. And to the point where, like, her lies aren't even that good. It just has that thing where when you're lying to people around you, they tend to believe you more. It has all these aspects that makes such a it's such a good script. Like, I was baffled by it because like this is just like a cheap little. It also looks great too. It's just like a cheap little Canadian indie, and it works in almost every section. Like, the problem with that is you just have to keep telling lies, and it's just like it's so crazy to watch it unfold, and I could see why someone wouldn't like this. Because she is such a terrible person, and she is technically I guess she's more of the antagonist, really, but she is the main character. So it's one of those movies. I just I think you have to watch it, but you have to understand it comes with some cringe to it, because it is hard to watch. but I do think it's a wonderfully constructed little film. Actually, it's probably one of my favorites, honestly, from this festival. Trying to remember if there was anything interesting in the Q&A, or just the fact that it's a director writer team, and they do both things. And as Casey was saying in the Q&A, whenever she was acting in a scene, she would look up to the director, and it would be either Johan or Calvin, and to her it was the same person because they were so in sync. And I think that's always interesting to see when you have a writer-director team where they're both doing everything. And this is what I was talking about earlier, whereas when you see like these small-time indies, you really often see the director and the writer as one and the same. And I think it's really interesting when you break that apart, and it's just one director directing someone else's vision at such a small scale. Sometimes I think that can affect it, but in a lot of these cases, I haven't seen that, and it's been a very strong. Honestly, it's been a very strong festival for a festival that has not very many big movies in its lineup. Which I almost didn't go to this festival. The only reason I did was because I got the press pass, but I wasn't really that interested in the lineup, but now that I've seen a lot of it, I am happy with where it went. So White Lie, I'm gonna have to give that one. Buck says 4 stars, 4 out of 5. And it's really a movie you should see because it is an emotional gut punch almost at around every corner. So White Lie rules, and we're on to our next one, James versus his future self. This was one I saw last night. So this is a time travel movie, as you might be able to discern. James versus his future self. Another one where the filmmakers were the filmmaker and star were in theater. We've got Jonas Cernick, who plays the main character, and it was directed by Jeremy Lalonde. They were both in the theater for that, and the Q&A. I'll talk about that a little bit. But this movie also stars Daniel Stern. You may know him from Home Alone as one of the Wet Bandits. I forget which one he is. Marv, I guess, the taller one. Because Joe Pesci was the smaller one. So yeah. And they wanted to have someone who kind of looked like Jonas, but not really, like, enough. But I was gonna ask in the Q&A, but I forgot if they were ever gonna just consider doing like some sort of de-aging or aging technology to make him just look older, than him play both parts. But I didn't get to that. My bad. I completely forgot when they started doing the Q&A. But Daniel Stern really is the main event, because to be honest, there's only so much like neurotic scientist that does nothing right all the time. I mean, he does everything right because he's a scientist in his work, but like in his personal life, he does everything wrong. There's only so much of that stereotype that I can possibly watch before I'm just like, oh, I'm going to put a bullet in my brain. But luckily, Daniel Stern is here to save the day, and basically every time he's on screen, I was like, damn, this is great stuff. So this one doesn't bring much new to the time travel genre, but it does everything you would expect it to do right. And they mentioned that they're both big fans of Back to the Future. You can tell that too, because there's even a fade away sequence. Like it has like it kind of has like the classic time travel, but they mix in some real science with it. They talk about like the Large Hadron Collider and CERN and that kind of technology and how it would be used to time travel. Apparently they talked to an actual physicist, one of the guys that from Toronto that actually helped build the Large Hadron Collider. So it's I would say it's accurate-ish, but I mean it's a time travel movie, so it's not going to be completely scientifically accurate. But this is a movie where essentially his future self comes back in time, says, "Hey, you discovered time travel, but you ruined your life because of it. You lost the girl, you lost your family, you lost everything to find time travel. So you're gonna have to change so that I disappear and you didn't fuck up my life, or I'm going to make sure you don't fuck up your life." So it's kind of like him. It's kind of Daniel Stern coaching Jonas on how to be a person, instead of just the super neurotic scientist trying to get everything done. I think it's like there's a lot of stereotypes in this that just like seem too obvious, in my opinion. Like it's not like the best written thing of all time, but where it does succeed is it's extremely funny. This is this is just a straight up comedy, like pretty much. It's sci-fi, but it's just a straight up comedy, pretty much. The big joke is that they figure out that he is his future self because their dicks look the same and they have a very specific dick. So it's mostly dick jokes and it mostly works. I don't know that it necessarily has much to say other than live in the moment, but I don't think it needs to either because it's just a rom-com, Sometimes that's all you need from a rom-com, and I think it works the majority of the time. I don't know if there's much to it more than its simple premise, and I think it works for the most part. It's not my favorite movie I've ever seen, but it's completely watchable. And I think at a film festival of this, where you're watching a lot of very heavy material, a lot of foreign films, a lot of Oscar bait, a lot of film festival art house movies. It's nice to kind of have a little break where you're just watching a movie about a guy time traveling to get laid. And that's fine. I'd probably go with 3. Buck says 3 stars for this bad boy. All right, moving on to Sorry We Missed You from the great British master Ken Loach. Boy, this movie is fucking good. I kind of expected it to be because I like Ken Loach, and he makes movies for the working class people, and this is no different. This is a movie about the working class story, and Ken Loach proves once again he is the master of that. And like, I'm not even saying that sarcastically. He is so fucking good at understanding the struggles of people that can barely afford to live. And I think what really struck me about this movie is like how it portrays how tough life is. And sometimes it's so tough that it might actually be impossible. It might actually be impossible to continue living. And somehow we figure out how to continue. But not always. Like, sometimes we just can't figure it out. And I think that's what makes this movie so fucking good. It's about a father who he's got economic, issues. They're having trouble paying for anything. The mother works. She like helps elderly people. She goes to their houses, and they sell their car so he can buy a van so he can work for like a delivery service type, like UPS or whatever, but like a private delivery place for Amazon or whatever. And it just like it shows how how the gig economy like makes everybody consider themselves unemployed, no benefits. You carry all the risk. Everybody's underpaid basically, but it's a very specific time where technology is kind of ruling us, and we don't really know how to navigate it so much currently, and we're just being exploited. And it is a hell of a watch, this one. And it has just so much heart. It profiles his entire family, his son who's a troubled youth, spray painting things, getting out of control, his daughter that just wants everything to go back to normal, everything be okay, not everybody fighting constantly. And it's so fucking real. This is another movie that it was introduced by the British I don't know, a consulate general or some shit in town, and it's so British that they had to put subtitles on the fucking thing. Like, I could understand, except for when I started talking about football, and then I still didn't even understand with the subtitles on. I just thought that was kind of comedic. That's you put subtitles on a British movie because they're too British for us to understand. This is like one of the best movies I've seen this year. It's completely, I would say, devastating. It covers like the reality and depressions of just regular people trying to stay alive. But I think what really struck me is just how real the struggle is, and how I don't feel like anybody else is trying to capture that these days. Like, how much shit sucks to be alive, but you still have to do it. That's the thing. Is you still have to fucking do it. Like, this is a guy where he gets beaten down on one of his deliveries, broken ribs, and he's like, I have to go to work today. Because if I don't go to work today, then I'm gonna lose out on $1,000, you know? I'm gonna charge for this shit. I'm gonna lose my job. It's one of those things where you just like, for the working class person, there's no way out almost. And it even when you think like every time he's like, just give me a few more weeks, we'll be good to go, and then something else happens. Every time you think you're floating above water, you fucking go back under. And that's what this movie is about. It's completely devastating. It's maybe one of the most human movies ever made. And that's like a lot of Loach's work. It's just they're so fucking human. They're so crazy human. And to me, this is probably the best thing I've seen at the festival today. That's why I wanted to talk about it right out the gates, that there was so that we could try and figure out something that comes even close to it, but I haven't seen anything so far. This one fucking wrecked me, dude. This is just like it's a beautiful movie, and I hope it gets some sort of play at the Oscars. I don't know what can it even get, foreign, I guess. Oh, because it's from the UK. I don't fucking know. I think it got some it can. Either way, this is an easy 5 out of 5. And Ken Loach deserves the fucking world. What a fucking master. What a fucking master of film. All right, I would go on further, but I do have to bump out to go see another movie. We'll probably be talking about that sometime this week, so tune in to the Movie Epidemic podcast. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on basically Spotify, anywhere where you can get podcasts. Just type in Movie Epidemic podcast. You'll probably find us. We also have a brand new website. It's just movieepidemic.com. Movieepidemic.com. We've got written reviews of new stuff on there and every single episode of the podcast. So buzz on over there, take a look, see. It's probably just best if you're like trying to figure out what you want to watch. You can scroll through there and figure out some episodes, or just go to YouTube or whatever. Whatever's easiest for you. Thanks for listening, and see you at the movies.